So I understand that many of you are in a very pivotal position in your life where you are trying to save your relationship and you need to find a path that is not only effective, but you also need to find it quickly as well. So basically here, I want to show you how to pick the right coach and how to make coaching work for you. And the reason why I'm making this video is, following up Gleb's testimonial from last week, I've been seeing a lot of my clients who come to my program having joined other programs before. And when I asked them how come the program didn't work, it's really that they were using the wrong criteria to pick basically the wrong coaching programs. And as you'll see here, sometimes what is good for you or what is the right path for you is sometimes not that obvious. And often what seems right for you is actually the wrong thing for you. So I just want to make this video to ensure that you don't fall for the same mistake. And I also realize that a lot of people are going to be blaming me for making this video and saying, oh, Jeff is just trying to brainwash me into buying his program. But as you'll see, that's just not true. I'm actually quite agnostic to what program you choose, whether you choose my program, other people's program, or no programs at all. My sole goal here is to try to just point you to the right path so you don't make the same mistakes that a lot of my clients have made. So I realize that this video is going to have a lot of hate. It's actually not going to be popular. I realize that. But if I can save just a handful of you from the wrong decision that I've seen hundreds of my clients make before, to guide you properly in this very pivotal decision or pivotal moment of your life, I call it a job well done, even though this video has very little views. I'm okay with that. This is not about my program, a clout, or fame. This is just about saving you guys. And to be honest, too, it doesn't really make sense that people say we're money hungry, because we actually have a quota of people that we try to enroll every single month. And right now our quota has a lot of a big wait list. So it doesn't actually give us any incremental benefit for us to saying this or not. So yeah, take it at that. We just want to help. And guys, going forward, the video styles that we have is going to change quite a bit. So we're not going to do the quick videos anymore, but more of the in-depth videos that you see here. Like this one's over an hour. And I realize not everybody's going to like this. And if you don't like it, that's okay. But I really, at this point in my life, I really want to no longer make videos for just money or fame or the YouTube algorithm, but I really want to make videos where I can go deep into certain topics that I think are important. And as my team also said to me, I want these videos to reflect the richness that we have in the program. So if you like more of these lesson type videos where you can, look at these lessons and study them over the course of a week, for example, and to learn more about the deeper topics about relationships, psychology, and so on, feel free to subscribe to this channel. I would love that. And I would love for you to get to know me and my mindset and how I think intimately, and also for me to engage with you guys and know you guys intimately as well. And again, guys, this is all for free. So if you like that, I would love a subscribe and click the bell button as well. So when these new videos come out, you will be notified as well. So like we said before, right? People are usually picking the wrong programs because what is good is actually not always obvious. And to show you an example of this, I want to show you a story about the opioid crisis. And so right now, if you don't know, the nation is in the midst of an unprecedented opioid epidemic. More than 130 people a day die from opioid-related drug overdoses. So if you really study how the opioid crisis started, this is actually a perfect example of how what is good is not always obvious. And actually what is good, what you think of as good, can actually be the worst thing for you. So, if you break down the opioid crisis, really what happened was that, in the US, the hospitals are privatized, right? And so, which means that the hospitals want profit. Now, to get that profit, to get that edge over their competitors, what they need to do is they need to collect positive reviews. So imagine right now that you are a doctor and you have a patient who is really in pain, a really incredible pain. And this patient asks you for a painkiller. Doctor, please give me a painkiller, more painkillers. Now, you as a doctor, you have two choices. You can either, one, decide to give him that painkiller and overprescribe painkillers. If you do that, the pro is that you will reduce that client's pain, but you may risk in the long term getting that client or that patient addicted to the painkiller, which is what happened. Now, the second choice you have is to not give the painkiller and basically let the patient suffer. Now, the pro to that is in the long run, you can save that patient from having a lifelong addiction to opioids. But the con is that patient is going to be very angry at you. They're going to be, you're causing my pain. Why aren't you being such an asshole, doctor? So pros and cons. Now, with hospitals being privatized, of course, they want the good reviews. So a lot of doctors, they're incentivized to give and overprescribe painkillers. Because if they do that, the patient can feel pain-free. Then they can say to the review and say, hey, this hospital is really good. I was such in pain, and then they removed my pain. It was a very comfortable stay. They have really good service, whatever it is. But if they choose a second route, right, even though it's a good thing, it's a better thing that they're doing for the client, for the patient, but in the short term, they might risk some really bad reviews. So here you can see that, what is good is not always the most obvious choice. And sometimes doctors and the hospitals are incentivized to give what is good now at the expense of what is good in the future. So for bad in the future. And if you look at the coaching industry right now, it also suffers from the same problems as well, where, as coaches, for example, for me, I am very incentivized to give good service, to give people what they want. But as you'll see, what people want is often very different from what they need, runs very counter to what they need. And because of that, sometimes we get really bad reviews like this. Jeffrey, your coaching style is absolutely terrible. I found a much better option on here teaching the same as you, but actually working with clients rather than just dismissing. So, as you learn in a bit, our coaching program operates very differently than most. So, for example, this person thinks we're just dismissing them because often we do cancel coaching calls. We do say when people come to us for help, we do tell them, hey, I don't think we're ready to help you yet. We want to help you yet. I think you need to learn how to help yourself. And this happens really because of what we call the rewards and punishment paradox, right? So if you think of any good habits right now, you will see that any good habits, they punish you now, but they reward you much later. So if you eat a salad right now, you will feel the pain of eating that salad. Or if you work out right now, you will feel the pain of working out. But you may not lose weight. You may not see the noticeable changes in your body until months or years or even decades later sometimes. So any good habits, right, is immediate punishment, very delayed rewards. But if you look at any bad habits, any bad thing, it's always immediate rewards and very delayed punishment. So if you smoke a cigarette today, you're going to get that nicotine hit right now, but you may not suffer till much later. And if you look at the hospital example, the opioid crisis is the same thing, right? These patients, they're in pain right now, and they want to have that satisfaction, that pleasure of that pain being removed right now. What they don't see often is the long-term implications of getting that painkiller now. So again, they want the immediate reward, but they don't really care about the delayed punishment. Like this guy, for example. I don't know this guy, but I'm guessing that this guy has reached out to us for some coaching help. And we said, nope, not yet. And he got pretty pissed at that. Basically, he's saying, I want the relief of getting coaching from you right now. But what we're saying to him basically is, I'm not going to give you the immediate satisfaction because I'm trying to play for the longer term of teaching you how to fish yourself. Now, what we need to understand also is that we're not, if you're looking for a coach, you're not looking for the entertainment or service industry. This is not a place where the customer is always right, as they say. And you shouldn't be gauging the effectiveness of a coach depending on the service they give or how they make you feel while in the coaching service. We're in the coaching industry. We're in the industry where we're prioritizing results over feelings, and we have to. And so when you are looking for coaches, you need to look for the right criteria. So the key takeaways here is that, again, what is good for you is not always obvious, especially right now, because again of the rewards and punishment paradox. So beware of this. Beware when you're looking for a coach. It doesn't matter if it's me or whoever, right? It doesn't matter. Be careful about weighing short-term pleasure versus long-term satisfaction, your wants versus needs. Okay, so let's dive deeper into this to show you 5 examples of why, again, good isn't always obvious. And I hope this will help you guide your decision better into when you pick a coach or when you want to pick a path, or even for you to make coaching work for you, right? So you don't resist the coach when the doctor, for example, tells you, hey, I'm not going to give you any painkillers, that you're not villainizing, you're not resisting the doctor, because the doctor is trying to give you what you need, not necessarily what you want, okay? So example number 1 is really with the example of tough love. Is it good or bad? So I get it. No one wants tough love, but you actually need it. We need to understand here that, learning soft skills, learning mindset stuff, learning internal shifts, they're very different than learning hard skills. So if you're learning math, if you're learning engineering, you can point someone to a problem and say, that is your problem. But in internal shifts, you cannot do that. And it requires you to really cut through a lot of blind spots, a lot of internal denial, a lot of this rewards and punishment paradoxes that we talked about earlier to really get you to wake up. So just for you to feel and understand just how different learning soft skills is, I'm sure many of you have family members or friends who suffer from addiction, whether that's addiction to alcohol, whether that's addiction to anger issues. I don't know what they're addicted to, but have you ever tried an intervention with them to get them to wake up, to really see the direness, the craziness, the absurdity of their actions? If you have tried this, you will realize just how hard it is. And you will often find yourself thinking like, how do you not see this? But for the person, they're totally asleep. They're totally asleep to this because, again, that problem lies beneath a lot of different layers of blind spots, of denial, of victim mindsets, etc. And sometimes when you're in this moment, the best way to get someone to wake up is to just wait until things become more dire, things become more worse, things become more painful, and they get that slap in the face before they go, oh my God, now I see just how messed up and absurd my actions were. And another good example of this is, sometimes people wait till things are very dire before coming to seek our help. And we always ask them, well, why did you wait so long to get our help? Didn't you see or know that this was happening long before? And in hindsight, people always say, oh, I saw it before. But the key thing is that it wasn't painful. It wasn't dire. It wasn't serious. So basically, the problem was there, but it wasn't tough enough. It wasn't big enough of a slap for them to wake up. But once the slap becomes bigger, they wake up. So think about your own life, for example. When were the times when you woke up, when you realized something absurd or crazy that you're doing? Is usually when things get really tough for you. So, the reason why we give tough love is that, again, we realize that this journey has a lot of needing to cut through like a lot of denial, a lot of BS, a lot of victim mindsets, a lot of blind spots. And we don't give tough love because we enjoy it. I talk to my coaches a lot about this. I'm almost like a therapist for my coaches because it takes a lot of energy. It takes a lot of emotional time, mental energy, and spiritual energy for my coaches to give tough love. It would actually be easier for us to not give people tough love, to say, okay, if you want to stay blind to your stuff, then go stay blind. And a lot of coaching programs do this. And it actually is going to make it a lot easier for us to not do this, because not only can we save all that emotional energy and so on, but we can also save ourselves from a lot of negative reviews like this as well. So we don't give you tough love because we enjoy it. In fact, it's actually very painful for us to do it. Every time we give it, we need to kind of take a breather and get some therapy from Jeff in a way. But it's really for your benefit. It's really to save you from future and real pain. Because again, whether you wake up to your problems or not, whether you realize your problems or not, that's not going to stop the problems from actually screwing up your life. As they say, right, is you can ignore reality, but you cannot ignore the consequences of ignoring reality. It's also to speed up your wake-up call. There's a really great quote that I give to my students, and I always say, basically, dumb people never learn from their mistakes. Dumb people who think they're smart need to make the mistakes on their own first before they learn from it. And actual smart people, they learn from other people's mistakes and they don't need to suffer the consequences of making the mistakes themselves. And so it's really to speed up your wake-up call because, like this quote says, if I had to live my life again, I'd make the same mistakes only sooner. And the implication there is that you learn a lot from the mistakes you make. Especially specifically, you learn a lot more from the tough love, the tough experiences, the wake-up call that your mistakes make. And if I were to live my life again, I would say to myself, if I could learn 100 things, I would want to learn those 100 things in the beginning of my life so I can have more time to enjoy the fruits of my learnings. Well, how do I learn those things? Is that sometimes I need to get the tough love to actually learn those things. So when we give tough love to our clients, it's not that we're just yelling at them and making them feel bad. We're just reminding them of what is at stake, of the absurdity of their actions, the absurdity of their victim mindset, for example, the absurdity of their attitude. And for this, I've reached a point in my life too where I actually want mentors. I want people in my life to actually give me wake-up calls because I know I've spent close to 500,000 now on mentorship programs, mastermind programs, and just programs in general. And the ones that have been the best for me in making major transformations for my life has been the ones who had the courage to actually give me the wake-up call I need. For example, whenever I joined one program, this coach told me that I had a lot of internal issues. I was really messed up. I was really effed up, and I was really a coward, whatever it is. And I thought about it, even though it stung, it gave me a wake-up call to be like, hey, maybe this is why I haven't been able to create my success. And it's painful, but that was the wake-up call I needed to see the seriousness of my situation, to see the absurdity of my previous behavior, and to wake up and say to myself, I'll never make this mistake again. And we also give you tough love because we believe in you, right? And you should too. And I always tell my clients this. When I give you tough love, it just means that I believe you can do better. And I'm saying to you implicitly, why aren't you doing better? And I realized this in my own relationship too. My wife, now my wife, back then, she would always give me a lot of feedback, a lot of tough love, because I was doing a lot of really idiotic things back then. I was really a dumb kid, immature kid. And, at one point, after a couple of years of this, she actually stopped giving me feedback. And I thought to myself, maybe this is a good thing. But actually, it turned out to be a really bad thing that she stopped giving me feedback. Because what she told me later on, or many years later, was that she stopped giving me feedback because she stopped believing in me. She either thought that, okay, this person, they cannot take feedback. They cannot take tough love. So what's the point of giving him tough love? Every time I give him tough love, he just turns me into a villain. So I won't do that anymore. The second thing is also she stopped believing in my ability or my potential to grow, to become better. And because she thought well, this is the highest he can go anyway, so why even bother wasting energy and trying to teach this guy anything, right? So, when the world, this is something I learned, when the world stops giving you tough love, that doesn't mean you are awesome. Usually it means that you are so unawesome and you are so blind to your unawesomeness, and you have made people so unsafe to give you that feedback because you keep resisting the tough love. And people stop believing in you, that they stop giving you feedback. Think about that. So when we give you tough love, it's because we believe in you. And it's because it's also our job. Okay. When you hire a lawyer, for example, when you hire a doctor, when you hire a coach, let's say you want to hire a coach to get you to the NBA. You bet you want your coach to be tough. You bet you want your coach to tell you what you need to hear. Sometimes the stuff that stings, that hurts, that is hard to take. You don't want a coach who just claps to you and goes hey, you're doing everything great. You're awesome the way you are. Because obviously you're not in the NBA yet. So, come on, right? Doesn't make sense. And there's a lot of other reasons why we give tough love. But again, we don't give it because we want to or we enjoy it. It actually takes a lot of effort from us. And what's funny too, right now we have close to over 100 client stories, success stories. And if I look at the names of all those people that I interviewed, those are all people I gave the tough love to, the wake up call to. I remember a lot of late nights with many of them where I was talking with them on Zoom and I was giving them a lot of tough love and the wake up call. And I was really harsh with them. And sometimes even the harsher I was with them, the bigger the wake up call, the bigger their transformation. That's very interesting. And if I look at the most transformative programs I joined to, or the most transformative moments of my life, it's always been when life was really tough on me as well. So that's why we give tough love, because it's actually needed in this particular area of life. And again, no one wants tough love, but I want you to ask yourself a few questions if you resist tough love. And I know this is a lot of questions, but these are really powerful and hard-hitting questions that I want you to really ask yourself. Number one is, have you really learned what you need to create success, right? So whenever I have a new client coming in and I can see a lot of ego and a lot of pride, and I ask them the question, so, how old are you? You are 47, you are 50 years old. Well, how come in 50 years of life, you haven't really learned what you need to create success in your relationships? And usually, these people are having the divorce for the first time, but usually they are having the second divorce, third divorce. And usually they'll also see that they're having really troubles with the relationships at work, with their children as well. So it's not just this one relationship, but it's a lot of relationships. So I asked them, like, why are you struggling so much in relationships? Why haven't you been able to create or to learn the right lessons? Is it because life hasn't really been giving you the lessons you need? Or is it because that life has been giving you the lessons you need, but every time it gives you the lessons you need, it doesn't come in the form you want, so you reject it and you resist it and you waste the pain in a way. So if you are resisting tough love, you need to ask yourself, is that the reason why you haven't learned what you needed to learn? Second question, is this why your partner felt the catch-22 and why she felt hopeless in the first place? So this is a introspection that I want you to do. And this is something that my partner told me later on in our marriage. So I was seeing that a lot of things you were doing was really frustrating me and driving me insane. But if I don't say anything, then I lose, obviously, because nothing will change. So option one, I lose. If I said something, I also lose, because you tend to make me into a villain. It doesn't matter how I delivered it. The fact that I was even trying to tell you, even in the nicest way possible, that you were flawed, you painted me like a villain. So I lose if I share. So that puts me in a hopeless position where I either need to accept and lower my standards, or I just need to accept that I'm going to be painted a villain. Either way, it's a lose. So if you are resisting tough love, if you're so allergic to tough love, I want you to ask yourself, like, is this part of the reason why your partner is feeling so hopeless right now? And how can you lead healing and prevent damage? Because again, if you cannot take the tough love from a coach, from your coach that has your best intentions at heart, that is literally their purpose there to help you. If you cannot take the tough love and reframe it in your mind properly, then how can you take tough love from the world, from your partner, to lead to that healing or prevent more damage? You can't, which is why we stress the thriving bulletproof vest a lot. And why do most men only realize that they need help when things are dire? Because again, the tough love is a really great catalyst. The problems were there before, but the problems hasn't become tough and dire before, so you just ignored it. The same way we don't go to the doctor unless we're like coughing up a lung, right? But once things get dire, they get the tough love, then they wake up. And so if you're resisting tough love again, if you're scared of tough love, if you're upset at people giving you tough love, you have to ask yourself, is this resistance the reason why I only deal with things when things are really dire? And I want you to think also about how petty this is. And I give this Cliff example. So we coach at this point like thousands of clients. And so we've seen a lot of the pitfalls that a lot of people fall into. So I want you to imagine, okay, you are standing on the edge of a cliff and you see someone darting towards the edge of the cliff. He doesn't see there's an edge of a cliff. So what do? You try to grab his arm because he's running at full speed. So you grab his arm hard in a tough way. You might bruise him a little bit. I don't know. And the person whose arm you grab turns to you and says like, hey, how dare you do that? How dare you give me tough love? What would you say? You'd be like, dude, do you realize how petty complaining about your bruised arm is compared to what you're about to do? And that's really what we do as coaches. We try to save you from running off a cliff, really. And think about how silly this is too. I was going to the doctor recently, and I'm someone who prides themselves on my diet, my lifestyle, my sleep habits. And so I go to the doctor for the checkup, right? And then the doctor asked me like, how's your lifestyle? And there's a part of me that wanted the doctor to be impressed by my lifestyle. But then I thought about how silly that is. The doctor being impressed with my lifestyle, giving me the kudos and clap in the hand, is not going to change my actual diagnosis. If I was sick, for example, if I was actually sick, me actually wanting the doctor to not give me tough love is actually a bad thing. I want the doctor to pinpoint for me my weaknesses, my errors, my flaws, my bad sides. I want to tell about the doctor my bad sides. Right. So if you don't want your coach to give you tough love, then you are preventing your coach from helping you. And think about again what you're saying about your potential. And this is again what my wife said to me eventually. And my wife always gives me the best epiphanies. She said, at that point, Jeff, you were trying to prove to me so badly that you were perfect. Every time I gave you tough love, you resist back by saying like, hey, I already thought of that. I don't have that problem. You know what you were saying to me, Jeff? You were saying to me that if you're already perfect, if you think you don't need tough love, that you don't deserve tough love, then you're saying you're pretty much near your potential. And if this is the best I can get from you, I'm outies. I'm out of here. I was like, that's very insightful. So ask yourself, why are you resisting it? Is it because of these kind of like weird thinking that you have about tough love, the way you interpret tough love? Are you interpreting tough love in the same victim way that you always interpret it? And one last one. Can tough love actually hurt you? Really ask this. Can tough love actually hurt you? So sometimes when we give tough love in the program, we ask people like, dude, this is the place to get tough love. Because after you do this program, you're going to actually have conversations with your wife. You're actually going to be out there in the wild. And if you hide your mistakes here and you end up making the mistakes later, that can actually hurt you. That can actually lead to a divorce. That can actually lead to something bad, to breaking up your family, whatever it is. But if the coach gives you tough love, does it actually affect your life in any way? Or does it affect your life only because your ego allows it to? Think about that. And I noticed this too. I'm just gonna make a quick point. I noticed that people who resist tough love also have a pattern of failing in every program or every solution they choose, whether it's books, other programs, etc. So, this resistance you have to tough love is really the reason why a lot of you guys, I think, struggle to. You guys are drowning in help and support, but you're resisting everything because you're resisting the ones that actually work. Because the ones that work often run very counter to what you want. And it's why I teach my team to have the courage to give tough love. And we know the risk of tough love because we lose a lot of sales from it. We get a lot of bad reviews, like from this guy, right? We do get a lot of it. But we realize, if you're coming to us, you're usually in a very advanced stage where you need a wake-up call. They don't have time to waste anymore. They cannot be delusional anymore. So for us, it would be very irresponsible for us to give you what you want here. I know a lot of people coming to the program, they get pissed off at us for giving them tough love and the needed wake-up call. But if we enable that, if we just say like, oh, you don't want tough love, then we won't give it to you, that's very irresponsible. You came to us because you wanted our help. So let us help. And especially if what you want goes against what you need. right? The same way in the hospital example, the patient can be screaming at you to go like, no, this is what I need right now. The pills are what I need. The painkillers are what I need. You as a doctor, you'd be like, if you give that pill, you are very irresponsible. Okay. Especially if the person starts to make threats. It's like, oh, if you don't do this, I will give you a bad review. I will sue you. Okay. It will still be very irresponsible if you give them that pill. And we take on the same approach. So basically, tough love, is it good or bad? On the surface, it's very uncomfortable. It's painful. It looks bad. But again, you need to learn how to look at it differently. Think about which side of the rewards and punishment paradox do you want to be in? So whatever path you choose, again, I'm not trying to get you to buy my program. It doesn't matter to me. Okay. Ask yourself, will this path, or can it, does the coach or the program or your therapist, do they have the courage? Do they have the cojones to give you the wake-up call you need? Because again, giving people the wake-up call they need is very difficult. The industry is very unincentivized to give that. Okay. So it's very rare you'll find this, but when you find this, ask this question. When you find this, latch onto that, savor that, right? Don't waste it. Another example here is getting fish versus being taught how to fish. So again, we got this review, and he says like, but actually working with the clients rather than just dismissing. And here's the reality of coaching from a coach's perspective. Understand that, relationships is a performance. Life is a performance. You are saying stuff, you're doing stuff, you're performing for the world. And you need to be able to perform, meaning like have conversations that are effective, that are safety building on the fly. And you need to do that with our help. Meaning you cannot, in the middle of your conversation with your wife, go, oh, let me go to the bathroom, and then call your coaches and go like, okay, so I'll say this, I'll say that. Okay, got it. You don't have that. You also don't have like the Hitch movie where you have someone in your ear telling you what to say, what to do. You don't have that. In this industry, the reality is that there is no done for you. It's do it yourself. So, in our coaching program, we've been in business now. This Relationship Rebel program has been in business for over 4 years now. And in that time, we've enrolled thousands of clients. And, in the beginning of our coaching program, I didn't really have anything to lose. So I just coached in the way I wanted to coach. Right? I just gave people tough love, allowed people to be self-sustainable, and people loved it. But then as our coaching program got bigger, we started to get a lot of haters. And these haters would send me very hateful emails and hateful things, hateful words to say like, how dare you coach that way? Very similar to this review, right? And so, at that point in time, I was like, okay, so maybe we should change our coaching style then. Maybe we're letting people we're teaching people to be too self-sustainable too fast, maybe. So around, I think between 2 or 3 year mark, we change our coaching style to be a lot more like we spoon-fed people more. Whenever people ask us like, hey, what do I do? We answered that. And guess what? In the beginning, we used to have so many success stories. And the success story stopped. It dipped when we tried to give people more fish, when we answered every question. And so we're like, okay, we got to change. So we changed it back to where we're harsher now. We have strict boundaries now on what kind of questions we take and don't take. And guess what? Our results are on the uptick again. So I don't know how other programs do this, but in our program, for example, when someone schedules a coaching call and I think they're just looking for the fish, I'm going to cancel that call. I'm going to not answer, or my coaching team is not going to answer some questions to rescue people immediately. Because a lot of people come to us in a frantic state. Oh my God, what do I do? And we just tell them like, I'm not going to answer that for you. I want you to look at the program principles and actually think about what to do, how to do it on your own. You can do it. And the way I think about this is almost like a spotter. Imagine you're in a gym, right? You are doing bench press, manly bench press. And you're doing the bench press, you're struggling to get the last rep up. The worst thing you can do as a spotter is to see someone struggling and grab the weight right away, right? You want people to struggle. And when people are about to break their necks, that's when you watch them and go, oh, okay, let me do it, right? So as coaches, we've been trained to also look at your situation and go, okay, is this a moment when you are struggling, but you have everything inside of you to actually push that weight up? Or is this you struggling and you're about to crush your neck? And usually when we see that you're struggling, but you can have the might to do it, we'll put it back on you. We're not dismissing you, right? A spotter is not dismissing you when they see you struggling and don't do anything. A spotter is actually helping you. So we do that. So this guy who says like we're just dismissing, we never dismiss anyone. We have 4 coaches, including myself, round the clock, 24/7, helping people. And if you are a client, if you have looked at our program, you will see just how much attention we place to our clients. You will see it. It's also why we go really deep in our program. It's why we teach people, for example, how to do a proper deconstruction, a proper reconstruction, why we teach mental map. And a lot of clients get really confused. Well, why do we learn a mental map and how to think in a relationship program that's about relationships? What the heck? When are we going to learn about what to say and how to romance my wife, right? People get really confused. It's because, again, we want to teach you the building blocks, the basic building blocks of how you can perform by yourself without our help. We're not just telling you tactics. We're trying to teach you how to think like the coaches, how to think like the pros, how to operate like the pros, how to live like the pros. Why we place a premium on daily practice processes and experiential work, because again, you're gonna need to do this yourself. So it's also why, I teach my team to have the courage to not give people the fishes. Regardless of the blame or negative reactions we get, we tell people like, no, we have to draw a hard boundary here. And it's also why we don't get yo-yo results. We don't get relapses. So, I recorded the interview with Jason Newman, which many of you have talked to, 2 years ago, 3 years ago now. Guess what? Him and his wife are now in Houston, near me, and they're living together. They're great, right? Their trajectory is always going up. You have James McFarland, who now works for the company too. I interviewed him probably 2 years ago as well, and their stuff is still going up. Sabur Ahmad, same thing, going up. He now works for the company too as a coach. David Sylvester, same thing. So, we don't get yo-yo results. So again, getting fish, being taught how to fish, on the surface is uncomfortable, painful, looks bad, right? But again, I want you to ask, whatever path you choose, I want you to ask, will this program or will this book or will this therapist teach me how to fish, or are they giving me fish? Okay, because you want someone to teach you how to fish. You don't want this one. Third example, complexity, okay? And this is something we talk about too in the program. And it's a really great quote given to me by someone, I forgot who, but they said, all systems fail. We just need to decide who it fails for. So understand here that we designed our program for the A+ players. If you look at a bell curve here, we designed the program for the A+ right here, boom. But we know that if we design it for the A+ players, we will piss off the B, C, D, and F players. Because obviously, if we design it for the A+ players, yes, the program is going to be very complex. It's going to be very long. It's going to be very uncomfortable. It makes you question yourself. It makes you feel all sorts of things, right? It's meant to challenge you. Now, of course, if you do this, if you're a B, C, D, especially if an F player, if you're someone who's not wanting to make big changes and reach really high heights, you're going to be really pissed off at that. The same way, if you go to a classroom and you take a lazy student and the lazy student is like, oh my God, I'm in the advanced class, the advanced placement class. That person's going to be like, man, this professor is trying to make it so hard for me. Make it piss off, right? Like, this professor sucks. And I remember I had this business course in college, and this business was called, the course was called Business Policy. And everyone hated that teacher, that professor, because that professor made the class so difficult. all these B, C, D, and F players, they were like, this class was so difficult. They're trying to ruin my grades. They're trying to ruin my life, right? But I personally love that teacher because that teacher was the only teacher that actually taught me so many life skills. It actually pushed me to become better. I love that teacher. So a lot of clients that we get, some clients, not a lot, but like some clients, they get all pissy. They look at the program length, the many resources that we give. Whenever we give feedback, it's like very long feedback. They get overwhelmed. They throw a hissy fit and go like, I don't like it. But again, our job here is to serve the A players. What we don't want is for A players to come to the program and say, what? These things are so easy. These things are so elementary. They don't challenge me, right? So we want to allow the A players to go as high as possible. The way we tell this, interestingly enough, is we look at the dropout rates, all right? And we actually want our dropout rates to be in a certain band, a certain percentage. If we have too little of a dropout rate, that means everyone's doing the program and they're loving it, right? That's not usually a good thing because that means that we are probably serving this area. So we're not really serving the A players, we're serving this ones. But we have 100% success rate for non-dropouts. And I know that's a really bold claim to make, but I've given this challenge to my client base to say, give me one person, just one person who did our program to the T and did not get the success that they were looking for. No one has ever come up with anything. And I'll make it another video talking about why the success is guaranteed. And a lot of our clients basically post that, like, dude, if you understand the principles behind this program, it's a guarantee. It's almost like a weight loss, right? It's like if you understand the laws of thermodynamics, how to diet and how to exercise, it's impossible for you to not lose weight and be fit. It's impossible. It's just scientifically impossible because we boil things down to the first principles as well. And a lot of people question us about this dropout rate thing. I'll give the gym example, right? It's like, if you go to a 24-hour fitness, there's going to be a lot of people who never step foot in 24-hour fitness, even though they signed up on January 1st. But do you say the gym is a failure? No, of course you don't. Because it's not the gym's fault. The gym is there. Like the gym's job is to build a state-of-the-art gym for the A players, right? If you don't want to go to the gym, that's not really the gym's fault. And it's again why I teach my team to have a courage to coach at a high level and assume the client is a smart A+ player. That's our job, right? Our job is to design a world-class facility that allows you to go as high as you want. Your job is to rise up to that challenge and beat the curve. Your job is to use the community that we have, use the program that we have to go like, okay, how can I catapult myself to the A player, to this bucket? That's your job. If you're trying to get us to make our program less complex, you're trying to get us to not do our jobs. And you're not doing your job as well as a client, right? And we give you everything you need to go as high as you want. And it's why, if you look at the interviews with a lot of success clients that we have, they always mention that the results are beyond their imagination. And it's why also, if you join the program, you will see a lot of people who are 2 years, 3 years after reconciliation, and they're still engaging in the program because this is a lifestyle thing, right? For A players, there's never an end. So complexity on the surface is very uncomfortable, but again, which side of the rewards and punishment paradox do you want to be on? So if I were you and I were to choose a path, again, I'm not saying it's me, I would ask yourself, not like, what are the drop-off rates? I won't even ask, okay, what is your experience in the program? I would ask, okay, did you stick with the program? How much did you actually stick with it? I wanted to get some evidence of how much you actually stuck with it and what are your results of the people who stuck with it. Basically, I want to go, okay, who are the people who are sitting in the front of the class, who are going to the gym every single day, and what are your results? Now, example number 4. ego results versus real results. Here's the harsh reality again. Because of the rewards versus punishment paradox, it's actually very hard to define what success means, especially in the niche of relationships and marriages. If I had a business course, it's very easy for me to define what success means. Oh, how many clients did I get from 0 to 1 million, right? I can measure that. I can quantify that. It's a tangible metric. But with relationships, it's not as tangible. So first of all, how do you define reconciliation? It's really hard to define reconciliation, right? What is the point of reconciliation? And I talk about that in many of my interviews. But also, even bigger than that, there's a lot of programs in the relationship space, and I often took the wrong ones and wasted a lot of money on the wrong ones because of this too. So I want to avoid you from doing this. So it's people giving good reviews, not because of results, but because the program makes them feel safe, comfortable, and gives great service. Have you seen this before? Like the reviews never talk about results, but they always talk about like how friendly the coach is, how wow, they always are there for me. They answer every question for me. But there's also programs that that people will say it makes them uncomfortable. It challenges people, but it gives results. And after spending almost $500K on coaching, the best mentors I had belong to this category. In fact, now, if I see a coach, all they post is just people with good service, makes people feel safe, that's a major red flag for me, because that tells me they're most likely breaking a lot of the rules, a lot of the criteria, the examples that I give here. They're in the rewards versus punishment paradox cycle, they're on the wrong side of the scale. So, which would you rather, right? It's a very simple question. Like, which would you rather? Would you rather a coaching program that gives you ego results or real results? And it's why I teach my team to push for results. We always push our clients. We always prioritize results over feelings. It gets us a lot of enemies, but it also gets us a lot of success. And also why we choose to have success stories that are impossible to fake. A lot of people ask me, Jeff, why don't you have Yelp reviews, Google reviews? Because guys, like those reviews are really easy to fake. Like think about even articles written about your program. That's really easy to fake. I can pay someone to just write an article about me. That's really easy to fake. But what's hard to fake, it's having a 2-hour interview with someone talking about the program principles, them sharing their stories, them sharing their challenges, them sharing the raw stuff that happened to them, using words and lingo that you cannot fake unless you took the program, you did the program. Those are impossible to fake. Okay, so again, whatever path you choose, I want you to ask, can they actually back it up with real results? Not ego results, real results. One last example is conceptual versus experiential mastery. There is a very, very vast, meaning big distance between conceptual understanding and experiential understanding. For example, safety is a big one on this one. So I talk a lot about safety in my videos, and a lot of men come to the program in the application call thinking like, oh, I know how to create safety. And, once they join the program and they try to create safety, they realize, oh, this is actually a lot harder. And even to this date, I am still destroying safety accidentally sometimes. Okay. So last week, for example, my wife came to me and she came to me with a problem. I have this problem. And I just jumped in to fix the problem for her. Like, you should do this, you should do that. And we fixed the problem. And I felt good. I felt like a king. Ooh, I saved the day. And I thought I was creating safety because I was like, okay, so if my wife brings problems to me and I fix the problems, then that would make her feel safer to come to me the next time, right? But no, it actually made her feel less safe because she was thinking in her mind, man, Jeff must think I'm so stupid. Jeff must think I'm not capable. Jeff must think I'm just like, I can't do things myself, right? and he's the one with all the answers, it actually made her feel less safe. It actually made her not want to share with me the problems in the future. So that's, again, what we call the paradox of logic. We've had a lot of videos on this already. You can look it up. But, that's the perfect example of how I understood conceptually what creating safety means, but experientially, I didn't know how. And I'm sure you have felt a lot of times in life when you thought something was easy at first, but then you realize, ooh, once you try to do it, it's actually really hard. My wedding dance was a good example of this, where I had this 2.5 minute wedding dance. And my wife is like, here's the dance, watch it, right? Are you good with it? It's like, yeah, they're just moving around. I got it. Until I tried the dance and I was like, oh my God, right? This is so hard. It took me 8 full weeks to master it. And that's like another example of like, there's a very big distance between conceptual and experiential understanding. So, it's why I teach my team too to have the courage to never accept conceptual understandings, but always expect our clients to understand it experientially. Why we push, guys. If you are in the program, you will know this. We push people to get out of their bubble a lot, show their work, do their DPPs, daily practice processes a lot. And people sometimes get pissed off at us for this, but we know it's what people need. We're performers, guys. We're not commentators. And just to give you 2 stories here, okay? Number one is like the black eye story, and this is the infamous story in our program. We had a client who came in. He was coming in because he had a lot of anger management issues, and his wife was actually the one who brought him to our program, who suggested the program to him. And he joined the program, and he claimed he was doing the work for a year and a half. He claimed he was doing the work, but we keep telling him, like, how come we're not seeing the work? We're not seeing the work. Are you sure you're experientially understanding this? He's like, yeah, I got you, boss. I got you. I got a FaceTime one evening at 8:37 p.m. I remember this so well because it was traumatizing for me. The wife showed up on the phone and she had a big black eye. Oh my God. Her husband abused her. And this is someone, again, who was conceptually understanding the program, how to be bulletproof, how to be untethered, but in experience, he couldn't do it. And ever since then, I'm always very wary of people like this. I used to allow people to just not show their work. Now, if you don't show their work, you're not doing the work. I don't care what you say because I don't want this to happen ever again. There's also a lot of people who claim to master my program. Every time they claim it, I talk to them and I ask them, like, okay, so show me your process for untethering. Show me your process for frameworks. And they break down. They conceptually understand how, for example, basketball it's played, but when they get on the court, they're like freaking miserable, So again, does whatever path you choose, another question I want you to ask yourself is, does this path allow me to experientially master the skills? So in our program, right, we place a premium on showing the work. So we design our program to allow you to experientially master the program, the principles. So whatever program you choose, take a look at the curriculum and see, does it allow me to experientially master it? So again, we go back to the main point here, which is that, I've seen so many people pick the wrong coaches and unable to make coaching work for them. And you guys are in a very pivotal point in your life, a very important part of your life, where if you make the wrong decision, it can really point you in the wrong road for a very long time. And I don't want that to happen to you. Okay, so again, I want you to ask yourself these questions. Okay. Will this path give me the wake-up call I need? Because again, you need it. Is this teaching me how to fish or giving me fish? Third question, what are the results of people who stick with it? Not what are the drop-off rates, not what are the typical results. What are the results of the A+ players? How high do they go? Can they back it up with real results, or do they have what we call ego results? And finally, does the curriculum the system, the structure allow me to experientially master these skills? Key questions to ask. Okay. Again, be careful. What's good is not always obvious, especially in coaching, especially when we're talking about we're not in entertainment, we're not in service, we're in the coaching industry. So I know that was a longer video than most. I want to be able to talk with people in a deep way. And I get some people are not going to be happy with this. They're not going to like this. It's totally fine with me, but I want to give you guys value. I want to give you guys a lot of stuff in this channel. But if you like that, if you want to go deep with me, then subscribe. I would love that, right? Let's talk deep together. I want to, at this point of our life, I really want to stay away from just getting quantity of clients, but I want quality. I want to work with people who are advanced, who can think with me, who can go deep with me, right? I want to work with that. And if these kinds of videos turn you off, then maybe the program is not for you too. But if you like this, then great. Let's lean in and let's keep working together. All right, guys, hope that was helpful, and I'll see you in the next video.